Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today I want to talk about getting to a saturation point with the Lord. But first I need to define what the term saturation point means. Well, according to Merriam-Webster, saturation point is the point at which there are so many of a thing that no more can be added successfully. So I was thinking wow, getting to the point where we are spiritually saturated in the Lord, where we are so full of his love, so full of identity in who he is in us and through us, that we couldn't possibly hold any more of him. And the truth is that we can never really get to that point, not because it's impossible, but on our end, but it's impossible to have every facet and every layer of who he is revealed to us in our lifetime here on this side of heaven. So we're always going to be and should be in continual revelation of who he is, in continual revelation of his love, in continual revelation of our identity in him. And so the thing about, getting to a saturation point, with the Lord is that, okay, we know that because he is always revealing himself to us, it's a constant. That is a constant, that he is revealing himself to us, to those who want to hear from him, to those who seek to know him, to those who want to go deeper with him. There is so much revelation available that we will never get to a saturation point, but we can position our hearts in a way where we are always going to make that the goal. It's like our goal as believers, as Christians, as his kids, our goal should be to want to get to the point where we can no longer hold any more of him in our hearts, right? It's kind of like, the way I look at it is when you're married, right? Marriage is hard. It's a lot of work. It really is. And if, and here's the thing, that's the big if you want your marriage to have a deeper revelation, of who, you are for each other as a married couple. If you want to get to know your spouse, because we're constantly changing. And so we're always going to have new revelation of our spouse. We're going to be different people, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, or at least we should be, right? And so we get to know that new layer, that new phase, right? That new side of our spouses, right? And so of our spouse. And so we continually receive, new information about them, even though we've been married, even if you've been married forever. If your heart is positioned to want to know your spouse, more and more, it's available. And it will be never ending, right? And unless we remain in a surfacey kind of relationship. And I've said this before, many times before, we can be married, but we can remain at a very, very surface level relationship where all we talk about are movies and music and other little things, stuff that is very, and even as Christians, maybe we'll skirt around certain subjects because we cannot allow ourselves to be uncovered or revealed or, be vulnerable with each other. And that needs to be worked out. See, that is something that doesn't just automatically happen. I'm sorry, I don't care how many, married people will say, oh no, our marriage is easy. We've always gotten along. That's great. You can get along. But I've always been suspicious of people who say that their marriages are just so easy, because I always feel like, okay, it may be easy if you are staying at a surface level, but if you want to go deeper, it takes intentionality. It takes work. And so with the Lord, that's why the Bible uses the analogy of marriage over and over again. So it's the same with the Lord. Getting to know the Lord is going to be a never ending journey for us as believers. It's never ending. And so making, that saturation point, getting so full on him that we can no longer have any more of him is a wonderful goal. That's a goal to set. But know that, it's part of the openness of our heart and the intentionality and the desire to want to know him and to go deeper and to want to change in him and through him, right? That is actually going to allow us to get a little closer to that saturation point. And though we may never hit that 100%, right? We can move towards the goal a little bit more. And we should be able to, say, okay, 20, 30 years ago, I used to think this way, but now, I can look back and, I don't think that way anymore. I've been transformed. And then take another area of our lives and say, you know what, I could probably grow more in this area. I could probably look a little more like Jesus in this area. And maybe in this area here, we feel like, we've gotten into a really good groove, and maybe we've gotten to a saturation point even in that area. We can move on to the next one now. And this is going to be a continual and an intentional thing that we're going to need to do if we want to mature and if we want to grow. If we don't want to be just cultural Christians and be Christians by name and be Christians because, 5, 4, 6, 7, 8, generations have been Christians, and so now we're just Christians. That's not the way it works, in the kingdom. We have to be intentional about our relationship, about our intimacy with the Lord. And so making that saturation point, getting to the point where we are so full of him that we can no longer hold any more of him, would be a wonderful goal to set. And so today, I just want to invite us to that. I'm going to read a couple of scriptures that talk about moving forward in something that will gain us that ability to, again, grow and to mature and to get a little closer to that saturation point. Because according to 1 Peter 3:18, we should be growing in grace and in his knowledge, right? We should be growing. It's something that as believers we are to expect. We have to be intentional about it. And then also, according to Ephesians 3:19, we are supposed to be filled to the measure. So it's kind of like saying, okay, go for it, try to go to that saturation point. We're supposed to be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. All the fullness of God, right? Because it's available and because he wants to reveal himself. He wants to make himself known. And so again, when we position our hearts to move towards that spiritual saturation point, he's going to so willingly give us that because he loves to reveal himself. So today, again, I just want to invite us on a journey towards that spiritual saturation point so that we can look maybe a year from now and say, okay, I have grown. I have matured a little bit at least. I used to think this way for years and years and years. And I had a breakthrough this year because I opened my heart and because I really wanted to change. I didn't want to remain the same. So I'm going to pray grace over us, that Holy Spirit would pour his grace out into our hearts, that we would desire to be open, to mature, and to grow, and to make spiritual saturation, that we would be so full of the Lord that we can no longer hold any more of him, that would be the goal, that would be what we want to work towards. And so I want to bless us, and I just want to proclaim, and I want to even say that we will together, if we do this together, if we work towards getting to that saturation point, we're going to get there. Not 100%, but we will have moved a little bit closer to that goal. And so I just declare that we're going to be seeing the fruit of this even in a year or so, and we'll be able to look back So I just bless you, and I pray that you all have a blessed week, and I will see you soon.